What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're not talking Netflix like I usually am on this channel. We are talking Hulu and the brand new limited series brought to us by George Clooney, the man himself. That is Catch-22. If you guys have seen this series, get in the comments and let me know if you liked it or did not like it. And if you haven't seen it, are you looking forward to it? It is on Hulu right now for you guys to check out. And let's talk about Catch-22. So Captain John Yossarian, in the midst of World War II, is an individualist who seeks to protect his own life by fleeing to the hospital, since a Catch-22 in the Air Force regulations prevents him from being grounded for illness or obtaining a leave. So Christopher Abbott plays Yossarian, aka Yo-Yo, a man who just does not want to be here, plain and simple. It's a very simple story if you look at it from a certain perspective, because the guy does everything he possibly can to get out of the situation he is in. It's explained in the first episode why he is there in the first place and how he did not think he would actually get to this point. And the man has just had enough with this situation. A lot of people are going to look at him as they do in the show and say, well, that guy's a coward. He is too afraid. He doesn't think he has the manliness, the grit, the toughness to be at war. But as you go throughout this series, you start to learn more about his character, and you realize maybe he's not the man that other people make him out to be for not wanting to be there. Maybe he's not this coward. Maybe he is a very complicated and emotional character that goes through a lot, and you see that in this series. Yes, this is a satirical take on what it means to be at war, and the series itself, surprisingly, and just so you guys know, I did not necessarily know what I was getting myself into. I've never seen the old movie. I did not read the novel that this is based off of. I knew it was going to be funny, but I didn't know how funny, and I didn't know how much of the dry humor was going to hit, and the humor works for me very much so. I was a bit worried because George Clooney, and not that I don't think he's a good director, it's just his last few movies, from Suburbicon to The Monuments Men, they haven't really hit for me. He only directed 2 episodes, but you can feel his touch on all of the episodes. He brings that same kind of humor and style that he has in his other films, except I think this TV show actually works way better for how he goes about bringing a story to life. Catch-22 was a very intriguing war drama slash satire, and let's get into the satire aspect, because it does play on the tropes and elements that we have seen in war movies before, in war situations, and just things that people go through when they are there in that situation. From having to deal with people that maybe you don't want to deal with, having to deal with death and the obvious aspect that comes with war, but then they start going down these other side trails that I was a bit afraid of at first, because in the back of my head I said, you know what, I like this main story, and now that we're developing all of these other stories with these other characters, I don't know if I'm going to dig them as much. But I like the characters so much in the first 2 episodes at the beginning of the show. I was okay with the fact that we didn't do what I was anticipating. Another thing about the show that I like is it's not very predictable. It was constantly subverting my expectations, and I really enjoyed the route that they took, especially when you get into the last 2 episodes with our main character played by Christopher Abbott. And let's talk about his performance really quick, because I've seen the guy before. I just haven't seen enough of him to formulate an opinion before this show. But my goodness, the man is charming, he is dashing, he is clearly an emotional person in this story, but he conveys that well as an actor, and I really enjoyed his presence, and I enjoyed him as a lead. I was questioning it at first. Didn't know exactly where the story was going, but I didn't know where his character was going to end up, if I was going to like him or not. And even though you're not necessarily supposed to love him, because he's constantly trying to get out of these situations, and he's putting other people in danger because of that. So in a way, his character is selfish, but you can't help but to feel for the guy, because he just doesn't want to be here. And that's the emotional conflict that you feel in a show like this. First off, I love a good war drama, a retelling of a war story, or something brand new with a war backdrop. This felt like things that I have seen before, but once again, that comedic aspect, the satirical take, you hardly ever see something like that where it mixes satirical and drama so well, and it meshes together to where it feels realistic. Listen, when you're in a bad situation in life, or you're going through something very traumatic or dramatic, you have to insert or inject a little bit of humor, because that's just human nature. It's going to happen. So the fact that they were not necessarily telling jokes, but getting themselves into these zany situations, making fun of each other, things that people do in war, I was okay with that. It felt natural. It was funny. The conversations especially, and you guys have seen this in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, but the conversation between George Clooney and Christopher Abbott, the dialogue where they're just going back and forth, that exchange, those exchanges are all throughout the show. show as well. I think Major was in that conversation. By the way, Major, a hilarious side character. Everything that had to do with his name, for me, worked so well. It was this ongoing joke, and I loved it. But this cast is stacked. So many people that I have seen pop up here and pop up there, they're there. But then you have the big names like your George Clooney's, who is not in the story as much as I anticipated, but he is there and he does have a presence. Kyle Chandler. Every time I see Kyle Chandler, I like him. I don't always love the movie that he is in, but I love his presence. And Hugh Laurie, who was great in this show when he popped up. No clue he was going to be in there, and I really enjoyed his presence. I liked the cast a lot. I didn't have really any issues with the acting. It was strong all around. One or two characters that got a bit annoying or a bit over the top every now and then, but overall, just a stacked cast. And then you have Abbott, who is leading the way as Yossarian, and he's just a very conflicted character, a character with so many dynamics. Once again, people might look at him as a coward, but he's constantly being bullied from all ends, even from his general, finding ways to keep people there when they clearly do not want to be there, and they meet their expectations, and they check off all the things on their list, and it continues to stack back up against them, and it really is. It's a hard thing to watch because these characters are in the midst of a struggle, and it's unfair to them. This story really portrays certain people that you would think could be the good guys, but they're the bad guys, and then it manages to piss you off because people are getting away with things that they should not be getting away with. It's not a fair story, but it feels like a true story, even though I don't think it's a true story. And the realistic nature of the way these guys are treated, it just makes you emotional as a viewer. And the story itself is completely absurd. The story and the storytelling, and I've heard things about the novel, that this novel is just crazy. The way you tell the story, the way that it's presented to the audience, and I feel like, as a guy who hasn't read the book, I feel like they captured that as well in this show, just from what I've heard, as well as they possibly could have. It is something that is not a casual watch. Even though it's 6 episodes and every episode runs at about 45 minutes, you cannot do something else and watch this show, maybe miss 20 or 25 minutes, because that 25 minutes that you missed, there are most likely going to be important plot elements or story shifting, something that you will miss. It is a show that you probably should pay attention to, so it's not necessarily an easy binge from that perspective, but if you like really good characters, strong writing, super interesting directing at times, it gave me Coen Brothers vibes, which is a testament to George Clooney and everyone else involved behind the camera. Guys, this show was really good. It was surprising. It made me want to go back and watch the movie, learn more about the novel. It got me interested in this subject matter, and because of all those things, I'm going to recommend this show. I'm going to go 85% for Catch-22. I really enjoyed it. Once again, I love war movies and war TV shows. I love satirical comedy, so all of the elements were there. They just had to execute, and I believe they did. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Tonight, Game of Thrones, the finale. We're gonna try to do it without all of the hatred in the comment section, but it's just thank you guys so much, as always, for watching my videos, and I will catch you very soon.